Hello and welcome to EVs and Beyond. Now today we're going to lean very much on the Beyond side because for the first time we are driving a vehicle with a petrol engine. No, put the pitchforks and torches away. This thing is a little bit different and is a little more EV than you would think. Let's go check out the BYD Sealion 6. So what is the Sealion 6? Well, it's a mid to large size SUV. So think Toyota RAV4, Mitsubishi Outlander, that kind of ballpark. Really in the meat of the New Zealand market. This size of SUV is generally the top selling vehicle in the country, particularly the Toyota RAV4. Now, the Toyota RAV4 comes entirely as a hybrid in New Zealand now, and the Outlander comes in a choice of petrol or plug-in hybrid vehicle. But this kind of goes a step above, and this is why we're talking about it being, very much on the EV side, and that has a really substantial electric vehicle range. BYD claims somewhere in the around 90 kilometre mark for this car. What is that battery? It's an 18 kilowatt hour blade unit, sits under the middle of the vehicle there. Then under the bonnet we have a 1.5 litre four-cylinder petrol engine. Now it's normally aspirated in the dynamic model, which is the front-wheel drive entry-level model, and then there is a turbocharged version in the all-wheel drive vehicle. Now the motor itself, it can direct connect to the wheels, but that's a pretty rare thing and only at high speeds. What it has instead is two electric motors, one that is used to generate power and one that is used to drive the front wheel. So this to drive feels very much like an electric vehicle. It is quite an electric experience with some of the benefits, I know that that's a strong word to say when it comes to petrol vehicles, of having a petrol vehicle. One being range. This thing is rated to do 1,100 kilometres of range, something no other vehicle in the market can really easily match. And then in normal day-to-day use, if you charge on a daily basis, this thing's going to be just like living with an electric vehicle. So for most people, they're just going to be able to pull out the plug in the morning, take it to work, come home having never used a drop of petrol. Now, the motor in the front of this one, the two-wheel drive one, is 145 kilowatts and 300 newton meters, suspiciously close to that in the Atto 3 and the entry-level BYD Seal. Probably pretty much the same components. Yeah, we'll talk more about performance later, but that's up there, that's on the bottom. Now, because there's a motor there, obviously there's not going to be a frunk. Disappointing, but let's talk about the styling. These headlights very much ape that of the Seal, and of course the Seal apes a certain Porsche electric car as well, we think. It's got a clamshell bonnet, which is quite an interesting design choice for a vehicle like this. Designed by a guy known for designing Alfa Romeos, so that's an interesting little tidbit there. Now the wheels, they are 19-inch on this entry-level car. Gitty tyres. The tyres are okay. Again, we'll get into the points later. We have tinted windows as standard, proper door handles. I love a proper door handle. These kind of trims down the side to make it look like it's SUV-ish. It's only got 170 millimeter ground clearance, so it's not really gonna go that far off-road. You've got these roof rails up here. You can clip a rack to, a glass roof. We have the charging port on this side, CCS Type 2. It's 7.2 kilowatts AC, so you're realistically on AC getting a charging time of a couple of hours, 2-3 hours, and then it's also got DC. Now it's not fast. BYD claims 18 kilowatts of DC charge. I actually saw more than that on a 80 kilowatt Tritium charger. I saw in the vicinity of like 23, 24, 25. It's not wonderful, but at least it's an option there that if you do get stuck or you do want some additional range or you're having a quick coffee, you can grab some charge. My only concern is if they sell a lot of these, we're going to end up with a lot more PHEVs sitting on DC chargers this summer. And then you've got this rear design, quite a small rear window as well, big spoiler there, BYD badging, the Sealion 6 badging there, which to me the font and stuff just looks a little bit dated, out of sorts with the car. I know they changed the name of the car fairly late in the piece, and I wonder if there's a real badge coming. And then DMI. DMI is the name of the technology that drivetrain represents. Now we do have a tow bar. Tow capacity on the all-wheel drive is 1,300 kilograms, which is about 200 kgs behind the kind of class average of 1,500. On this one here, the two-wheel drive, it's only 750 kgs, which is a little bit disappointing. Opening up the boot of the Sealion 6. Now this is one area where the vehicle probably is a little bit of a letdown. Now, great to see in this one, they've got this really neat rubber liner, and of course it comes standard with charging equipment. But it's only 440 litres. There's only a little bit of storage under the floor for things like your tyre inflation pump, all that kind of thing. That's a bit disappointing. So if we look at the market, the Toyota RAV4 has 570 litres, the Outlander about the same, but the Outlander also has optionally a third row of seats in the boot. So this car is somewhat compromised on rear load space, and that could be a little bit of a problem for fleet companies and families wanting to consider it. It's not a bad space, but it is certainly below the market. Now, one thing you get with all BYDs is the BYD app, and that now comes with a new trick. Now, previously you've been able to unlock the car with the app, but it's never had a proper kind of digital key. Now it does. For Apple users, you can put a key for the BYD in your wallet, which lets you lock and unlock the car with the tap of a phone. Now, the interesting thing about this is because it's part of Apple's wallet system, you can send that key to anyone. So say you're lending your friend your car, you can send them the key with various authorizations from a distance. Now, it's not quite as handy as Tesla's Bluetooth-based key, which will open from anywhere in the car. It's just you have to tap that wing mirror, but you know what? It's not bad. Now, BYD have always been known for some slightly quirky interiors, and they haven't entirely eliminated that in the Sealion 6, but by golly, does this thing feel a lot more premium and luxurious than what we're used to from them before. I mean, if you look around, you've got these kind of synthetic leather look surfaces around the top. They're okay, but down here you got this lovely plush stitched material, some kind of faux wood through there, metal trim. The steering wheel feels nice and chunky. It's a nice size, good quality buttons. BYD across there, of course. It just feels overall like a luxurious place to be. These seats, they're big, they're soft, they're comfy, they're reasonably supportive. 8-way electrically adjustable on the driver's side, 4-way electrically adjustable on the passenger side, and they are heated and ventilated, which is really nice. Now down here we've got the usual kind of shortcut buttons that we are used to with the BYD, and the same transmission shifter as we've seen in a Seal. It's little, it's falls easy to hand, I really like it. You've got an EV or a hybrid mode button down here, a drive mode button here, and a start-stop button mode here. Now, if we push the brake in and push start-stop, starts up just like another electric vehicle. There's no real difference with the petrol motor there. It doesn't kick in necessarily when you start the car. In fact, it's never kicked in when I've started the car. Now, you have dual wireless charging ports here, which work really well. There's USB-A and USB-C down there. But you don't really need them these days because those wireless ports are so good. And you also now have wireless Apple CarPlay. Now this works reasonably well. It's only dropped out for me once or twice. It was a little bit of process getting it set up. But once there, it works really well and it makes the most, I think, of this big screen. Of course, you've still got the BYD system behind, which has been kind of tidied up lately. I hear there's even some bigger changes coming, but BYD will have to tell us more on that when the time comes. It's slick, smooth, works well enough. You've still got your things like your karaoke's, all those kind of things, and your ventilation controls, which will turn off now. It's good. It's not the best in market. It's not anywhere close to Tesla's, but it's pretty good, and pretty much any setting is in there. It's still a little bit annoying that you've got to go into that system to get to the climate control functions. You can use the "Hey BYD" function. We won't say it because we end up having it jump in and try and commentate in our video for us, but it works. There's one little thing I don't like, all right? So we have the usual BYD rotating screen, and this is a problem in fairness in all of the BYDs, but exacerbated now that they've gone to this bigger 15+ inch screen in this car, and that screen is coming to the updated 03. And that is with Apple CarPlay. Now, with this vertical screen, you've got enough room there to have, say, CarPlay at the top or bottom and other software around, as can be done by things like the Mustang Mach-E. But the second you hit the CarPlay button, it decides it no longer wants to be in that vertical mode, which I quite like, and has to be done widescreen. So it's a good installation of CarPlay as it is, but it's not exactly perfect yet in the fact that you can't do that. I think it's a similar issue for the wireless Android Auto as well. So this car misses out on the drive cam that we've seen in the Atto, but you still do get fantastic surround view cameras, really like those. That's always been a highlight of the BYD product. You've still got Spotify, you've still got the BYD store, which is slowly bringing new features to the vehicle, like karaoke, like Amazon Music, browsers, a few other things floating around there that'll be coming in the near future, I gather. It's developing okay, and it's pretty stable. Now, in front of the driver, you have a really big digital information screen that's got things like your speed, the various forms of power that you're using, whether it's you're charging the battery, you're on eco mode, you're using the motor. It shows you all those details there. Shows you those range meters. Now, when we jumped into this, it did show about 100k of EV and 1100k of overall range, and your various driver assistance functions, all the same as the previous vehicles we've seen. You've got lane centering, adaptive cruise control, AEB, all those kind of assistants. They work pretty well, and this is actually the first time I've driven a Chinese car and I've not had to go and turn any off. So they're getting there. They're doing some tuning, obviously, and it's working better. I don't think there's a camera-based driver attention system, which probably helps, and I hope there won't be one in the very near future because I hate those damn things. Anyway, let's go check out the back seat. Now, jumping into the back, you realise why I don't get into too many back seats. It's plenty of space back here, but certainly I'm at the upper end, so don't judge it too much by me. Now, the front seats, they don't have a huge amount of toe space underneath, which is a bit annoying, but I guess if when they're raised, that seat is sitting in the lowest position, there might be a bit more. There is a pocket back here. You've got bottle holders and in the doors. You have an armrest here with cup holders. Now, a couple of good big vents there with some control, which is nice. Sometimes the back seat is secondary when it comes to ventilation. We have USB-C and USB-A. And I'll repeat what I've said in other BYD reviews. It's really great that they put high output USB ports in them. Those USB-Cs put out about 65 watts, so you can run a laptop properly off those. Now, you have headrests for all three positions. You've got ISOFIX for the outside seats. The seats themselves are really comfortable and sculpted, but the floor is quite high, probably because of the battery, so I do feel like my knees are just up a bit more than I probably would like them to be. Touch button reading lights that won't go off at the moment because the door is open. And headroom is okay, and this is the downside again to a lot of glass roofs we see in cars these days, in that, you know, I'm kind of brushing the ceiling, but that's because the side of this is lower to account for the glass roof. And I still think on some of these entry-level cars, this is the entry-level model for all the spec, that some people, particularly fleets, might just be happier not having this there. Right, should we go see how it drives? Right, so the big question is, what is the Sealion 06 like to drive? And it's not bad. It's a car that is very much focused on comfort. So the suspension, the steering, the brakes, everything's just that little bit soft, not in a bad way. It's comfortable, but I wouldn't call it precise or sporty. If you want that in that SUV market, you really got to look at maybe the Mazda. The Toyota's actually not too bad, or go more into the electric space. This thing is more about getting you there in kind of wafty comfort. Not too soft, but a little bit soft. The same can be said for the drivetrain. It's not the quickest vehicle in the space. 0 to 100, about 8.5 seconds. Not fast at all, but not bad again. It's just, for a day-to-day car, absolutely adequate. Now, if you want a little more performance, the all-wheel drive version has quite a bit more power put down the bottom, and a 6 and a bit something 0 to 100, that's genuinely fast for a car of this size. To be honest, for my day-to-day, I think this front-wheel drive one is just really nice. It is very quiet. Now, you may be hearing some engine at the moment, and that is my fault because I've pretty much run this thing out of electric power. You can set the car to hold on to electric power for when you really want it, but with various videoing and testing things today, I didn't do that. So we are running on petrol right now. But you know what? Even running on petrol, it still drives like an EV. The power delivery feels like an EV. It's very smooth, very linear. In fact, the petrol motor will only directly connect with the drivetrain at highway speeds. It is really designed just to be that generator. I mean, it's only got a relatively small power output anyway. This is really based on
making sure that the engine is supplementing the battery. And on that, one of the tips I would suggest to people is make sure that when you've got this car, you set it to keep the battery at the minimum of 25% and work to keep it there, because then you're going to get maximum performance all the time, and have a better time generally. So you go into here, you've got some functions you can set around energy when it comes to that system. So set the system to charge, you can have to auto or save. In this case, if I put it to save, it's going to try and generate power to bring that battery up to that higher level. Though the lights here, it's turned off anyway. And yeah, you can do other things like you can with electric vehicle. You can set the regenerative braking, all those things. It's exactly like driving a big Atto 3, except for having that petrol engine kick in and whir away a little bit. Now, some people have said that the engine's perhaps a little bit too noticeable. I disagree. I've barely noticed it. And even, I think, going up my drive, a very steep driveway, it was still only a bit of a murmur there. But I understand BYD have new engine management software ready to go that will calm that down even a little bit more and maybe make it a little bit more efficient, which is impressive. Now, if we're talking efficiency, we do have the panels here. This vehicle since start, and bear in mind this is a press vehicle, so it's been driven fairly hard. It's got a cumulative average emissions per 100 kilometers, and this is combined. So put the two together. It's not an alternative to an electric range or a version or a petrol one, of 10 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers and 2.8 liters of petrol per 100 kilometers. Now, you could make that number different. And if I was using this properly as my day-to-day vehicle, I would be using even less petrol than that. If you keep the battery topped up all the time to 25% and fill it up regularly, I understand this car on paper is a 1.1 litres per 100 kilometre car, which, sure, you're still using fossil fuels, but you're not using a lot. And we talk about that, look, there will be some negative sentiment, I suspect, in the comment section from some of our regular viewers and some not so regular viewers about this being PHEV rather than a pure electric. And I get it. Our community is electric focused, and that's great. But not everyone is. Not everyone's ready, or as ready as they think they are, and they want a halfway point. And I think what BYD is offering here is a really good halfway point for those people who aren't quite ready yet. I think most of the people who buy this, their next vehicle will be electric. The other side of that too is that I still don't believe electric is quite there yet when it comes to commercial vehicles. And while this isn't the exact same drivetrain as what we're going to see in the BYD Shark, it's similar. And if this is even a 50% indication of what this drivetrain is going to be like in the Shark, then I'm impressed and pretty confident that's going to be a solid vehicle.
So rounding up the BYD Sealion 6, I'm pretty impressed. I guess the way I describe it is you're basically buying a Toyota RAV4 or a Mitsubishi Outlander, and they're throwing in an electric vehicle for free. It really is usable as electric on a day-to-day basis with that long-range option there when you really need it. Now, the pricing is pretty solid as well. The front-wheel drive, as we've driven here with all that spec, is $57,990. So it sits about the same as a mid-spec RAV4. Now, the all-wheel drive version is $64,990, which sits pretty much at the kind of entry-level, low midpoint of an Outlander PHEV, which is comparative because, of course, it's all-wheel drive as well and a plug-in hybrid. So yeah, it's not perfect. There's a few little niggly things. The handling could be a little bit improved. The boot is a little bit small, but otherwise the build is really good. The efficiency is really good. The drive is pretty darn good. And overall, I think it looks great. It's a good all-round vehicle. Anyway, that's it from us. I promise there won't be too many petrol vehicles on this channel, but we'll see more electric vehicles soon on EVs and Beyond.